Hi, I'm Adrian, and welcome to our Fatal Risk and Critical Control Awareness course for the moments that matter. The photos you've just seen are of your workmates sharing a moment that mattered to them. We need to talk more often about fatal risks and critical controls so that we all stay safe at work and at home for those moments that matter. To help us do that, I'd like to introduce you to two of our colleagues who are going to join us for this awareness course.
Hi, I'm Melanie.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
During this awareness course, you'll watch videos of our work colleagues talking openly and emotionally about their experiences and thoughts around fatal risk. I encourage you to share your stories, experiences and thoughts about hazards and risks that have the potential to kill.
More importantly, today is about raising awareness around critical controls and strategies to reduce the chance of you or your workmates being killed. Fatal Risk and Critical Control program has been developed in consultation with your site teams, Compass Group tradies, safety professionals and external consultants.
Please use your workbook constantly throughout the course. It's yours to keep. Use it to write down your responses to questions. It also summarises the key points and takeaways. Most importantly, please share your knowledge and experiences. What you share today may save a life tomorrow. What you talk about today are for your moments that matter.
In a former life for a large organisation which today is probably one of our main competitors, I received a phone call one day advising me that we'd had an incident. It was described as a serious incident at one of the facilities that we looked after in Queensland. He was in a main mechanical switchboard and he was doing some investigating. There was an explosion. The employee was actually set on fire. As a consequence of the incident, he undergone 2 fairly major operations for burns to his arms. And when I actually seen him, it's probably something that I'll never forget. He did have 66 staples in one of his arms. His glasses were completely blown off. There was a screwdriver that was lying on the ground as well. That quite a part of the screwdriver had been blown off. But the impact, I guess, that had on me personally was at the end of the day, he was one of my employees, and it's something that's never left me. So everybody was impacted by what happened to this particular employee on that day. A severe impact on not only his wife but also the children as well, because apparently the younger children, when they went and seen their dad, they were terribly upset about it. My message to them is fairly simple. We don't operate in an environment where we should ever, or our employees should ever, feel that they are under so much time pressure to get things done that they cut corners and do things unsafely. And I think that would be supported right across the organisation. I think one of the things of all the incidents that I've seen and read of lately, we are a can-do organisation, and that gets us into trouble. The message that I give all of the Delta people is nobody's going to thank you for cutting corners and being involved in an incident. Everybody needs to understand that there is cause and consequences that can and do come out from their actions. They will be fully supported if they take a stance to say, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that. It is not within my skill sets. No, I'm not going to do that.
Please take a moment to write down your thoughts in your workbook. Colin's experience has clearly stayed with him over the years, and he touched on many interesting and thought-provoking issues. It would be great if one or two people took a couple of minutes and shared their thoughts with the group to spark a couple of minutes of discussion.
Okay, everyone, that was good discussion. Let's get back into it. Adrian, what was your thoughts about Colin's video?
Yeah, look, I suppose for me, it's around this can do versus can do safely. You know, so many times we see people, you know, wanting to help others out, they jump in, they'll do a job that isn't normally part of their scope, that isn't part of their normal day routine, and they'll go and do that job and they'll get an injury. We've seen so many examples of that. So I know it's sort of a bit, you know, against the grain for a lot of our people, because a lot of our people come from a hospitality background, they've got that sort of can-do attitude. And as Colin sort of said in his video, you know, we're a can-do attitude and that gets us into trouble.
Absolutely.
You know, and so for me, it's having that presence of mind to go, look, just let's take a moment. I'll help you out, but I've never done this before, so you know we need to do a bit of job planning, we need to do a bit of risk assessing. Let's just think about how I'm going to help you without actually getting hurt. I don't know what your thoughts are, Mel, on.
I think for me, it's just stayed for him for such a long period of time.
Yeah,
the incident
yeah.
occurred, you know, years ago,
Yep.
and his visual recall, and it's clearly had an impact on him.
Yeah.
And the impact that injury had on the employee and their family as well.
Yeah.
That's certainly stayed with me.
Yeah, and I think we tend to forget that. You know, we tend to forget about the impact that it's going to have on other people. And that's why this course is sort of subtitled For the Moments That Matter, and it's the branding for our fatal risk and critical control. It is for the moments that matter, you know, and it's about, you know, what he said around, you know, the kids went and saw their dad in the hospital.
Yeah.
That really resonated with me, you know, because I've got kids, and I'm just thinking, wow, imagine that visual image for those kids seeing their dad in hospital. It'd you know, be so heart-wrenching for them. So you've got to think about the implications of what you're about to do, and take a moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Mel, I'm interested in your thoughts around what Cole raised, and one of our fatal risks is electricity.
And absolutely, I guess all of our employees deal with electricity, irrespective of the business sector we're in, irrespective of the role we're in. And I think my concern is that we have complacency with that, because we use toasters, blenders, fridges every day, and that we create this culture where it's okay maybe to get a short electric shock or a buzz of electricity because the equipment's old, where what I'm looking for is that employees feel comfortable speaking up and saying that piece of equipment's not right. I don't want to put myself in that environment.
We normalise the risk, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think our team seem to think that they've got to put up with it because it's not their equipment.
Absolutely.
And I think we talked about the other day, someone was getting like little electric shocks
off a small bar fridge, you know, and it's taken some time, and we're making culture change for employees to actually speak up and say, hey, I've got this shock, this is not right, let's fix the equipment. And I think this is a perfect session and awareness to say, for employees to say, let's speak up, let's fix this equipment, let's not put ourselves in this situation.
It's likely you've already seen this logo that represents our fatal risk and critical control framework. Yep, I know what you're thinking. Hey, that'd make an awesome tattoo. Well, you wouldn't be alone. I believe that every member of the Australian leadership team is getting one.
Another component of the framework is our pocketbook. It is an excellent resource to help you remember the non-negotiable critical controls and challenge whether those critical controls are in place. While the pocketbook is the what and simply lists the critical controls, there are also compass clips for each of our fatal risks, and these short videos are the how, giving you the guidance to implement the what. These compass clips can be streamed to any mobile device, and there is a pictorial guide in the back of your workbook showing you how to do this. You only need to set it up once, and you'll have access to compass clips whenever you want.
The framework also consists of this awareness course you're participating in right now, plus there are other awareness courses for you to attend. We also do critical control observations using the CHESS mobile app, and we have our normal audit process, service standard appraisals and our DIP tests.
Last year, 157 people lost their lives in workplace accidents, and sadly over 2,300 workers have died over the last 10 years. That's more than 2,300 people that went to work expecting to come home, but they didn't. It's easy to dismiss a simple graph or a few statistics, but please think about that. They expected to come home that night. It's the same expectation you have right now. However, there's still room for improvement, as one person loses their life almost every 2 days in Australian workplace incidents.
Behind each number in a table or on a graph are people and families left wondering how someone they cared about didn't come home from work. I know this may be a little uncomfortable for some people, but please take a moment to think about the people that would be affected if you were involved in a workplace incident. In your workbook, please write down their first names. Vehicle collisions is by far the most common mechanism or cause of workplace death, closely followed by falls from height and being hit by a moving object such as a forklift. Interestingly, when we consider the incident and near misses that have occurred in our business, thankfully without fatality, these three risks appear at similar percentages. However, the key point to remember is what makes a difference between a near miss in our business and an incident resulting in a fatality. It's just good luck. I don't think anyone would argue that eventually luck runs out. And when you look at our critical controls, I don't see luck appearing anywhere.
Most of us drive a car and probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about the risks because it's something that we do so often. Yet, unfortunately, more than 3 people a day in Australia lose their lives in road-related incidents. Billy Mitchell is our Business Development Director who's worked for Compass Group over many years, both in Australia and overseas. Billy was keen to raise awareness around the risks associated with driving and fatigue. He and his wife Wendy were kind enough to talk with me about their thoughts.
I'd like to think that since we moved to Australia, he's a bit more conscious of the risks of having that time, even just awake, never mind the driving, because ultimately that full trip will end up in him returning home from the airport. And sometimes he'll leave at 3 a.m. and he'll return at 10 p.m. So that's a massive day, and that last leg between the airport and home can be very risky. In saying that, I know he's very level-minded. He would prefer to get home, but I do know that he would stay over if necessary. Well, ultimately, if he exceeds the expectations of being awake for too long, we're going to lose him. And my children need a father, and I need a husband, and it's not worth taking a chance. I can honestly say that I cope very well. I'm so used to Billy traveling. I cope fine when he's not here, and I'd rather he slept an extra night away from the family to be safe than try and head home to help us. You know, we don't want to have that risk of losing him. I think there's a number. Sometimes it can be cost to company. Sometimes a company will, you know, not want to pay for that accommodation overnight. I don't think that's the case with Billy. Again, there's a lot of pressure in his job to get things done with a lot of deadlines. So in his mind, if he can get a full day's work in the following day and get home that evening, he'd possibly want to do that. So for me, it's not a shock when he's traveling. I've always been able to accommodate that when we've had 1, 2, now 3 children. So I can honestly say that I'd rather he stayed and was safe than race home and stand the chance of losing his life.
So
but we all take chances, don't we? Because we actually forget about the risks.
Please take a moment to write down your thoughts in your workbook. It would be great if 1 or 2 people took a couple of minutes and shared their thoughts with the group to spark a couple of minutes of discussion. What resonates with me is that Wendy would prefer her husband, as much as she loves her husband and the kids need a father, to stay overnight than to risk that last 30-minute trip home, where that's the high risk of likely to have a car accident. And I think that resonates for me about empowering our employees if they don't feel right, if they don't feel safe, to make that decision and stay overnight versus risking and driving, having a crash.
Because generally I don't think people willingly put themselves at risk. It becomes business as usual.
You drive all the time. Yeah, most people do.
Yeah, and I think people that drive for work, they don't necessarily think about that driving to and from place of work or a site or the airport. They don't think that as part of the work day. And I think, again, this is about raising a risk so that's the full day of work. And how do you make sure that you're mindful of the full day and the risks that you're exposing yourself to?
True.
Especially with driving. Because it's such an everyday event.
And yet so many people lose their lives. You know, I think it's 3 or 4 a day in Australia lose their lives in vehicle crashes.
Incredible.
You know? And so that's why it's one of our fatal risks, especially because of the chance of multiple fatalities. You know, you get 2 people or 3 people in a car that has a crash. It's you know, it's one of our highest fatal risks or most dangerous fatal risks, I suppose. You know, the other thing that strikes me with talking to Wendy, and you know, it was a great privilege to talk with a lot of our team, is that our employees forget what their spouses and what their families think.
Yes.
Like when you spoke to Billy later on, it was interesting that he sort of wasn't really aware that Wendy didn't really need him at home. Like she would be more relaxed if he stayed away for another night.
Yeah.
Not that we want to put up with Billy any more than we have to, but sorry, Billy. But you know, it's you know, around knowing that he's safe, I can get on with my day and night at home, and you're going to return rested tomorrow. You know, I spoke to some other employees as well, and one particular guy who drives a fair distance home at the end of his swing. He works in the OR sector, and one of our managers sort of realised that he was driving too long, and they've asked him to change his routine and drive home the next day. And he talked with his wife about it when he got home, and his wife was, you know, admitted that she was really, really worried every 2 weeks when he was driving home.
Yeah.
He would come home to a really stressed out partner. And he wasn't really aware of that.
And it ended up being a great resolution, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they worked out another way to achieve that.
Yeah.
To get to and from work, that kept him safe.
Yep.
You know, he's going to be home. She's less worried now.
Yep.
It was a great outcome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.